There is a 36-acre temple ground in Kerala where a towering 50-foot gopuram opens up to absolutely nothing. No stone walls, no roof, no inner sanctum, and not a single physical idol to pray to. Instead, thousands of devotees stand exposed to the monsoons, bowing before ancient banyan trees and the open sky. This is the Ochira Parabrahmam Temple in Kerala. While conventional temples place the divine within precise human architecture, Ochira breaks this tradition. It is a living, breathing temple of Parabrahmam, the absolute formless cosmic consciousness that cannot be confined by brick or mortar. Namaste, my name is K. Kumar, author and screenwriter, and welcome to another episode of Chaturya, the fourth state. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, then please take a moment to hit that button for subscription and turn on the bell icon for notifications. Because today we are diving deep into the mud, the military history, and the subaltern legends of a temple that defies every single rule of South Indian temple architecture. The metaphysical identity of Ochira is anchored in a brilliant compilation of subaltern folklore found in the classic Malayalam text called the Aithihyamala. The legend centers on Akavoor Chatan, a servant working for an orthodox scholarly Nambudiri Brahmin landlord. The Chatan used to observe the Nambudiri praying to this invisible Parabrahmam every day. And he was intrigued as to who was the priest praying to. So one day, this Chatan asked his master a simple question: how does Parabrahmam look like? Amused and slightly mocking of his servant's innocence, the priest replied, Parabrahmam takes the physical form of a mardan pother or a buffalo. An orthodox scholar would see this as a joke. But the Chatan accepted his master's words with absolute, unadulterated, literal faith. He directed his entire soul in devotion towards this mardan pother, and visualizing it as Parabrahmam, for 41 days, he prayed to it. Moved by this pure, unconditional surrender, the formless cosmic consciousness did something extraordinary. It manifested physically as a magnificent mardan pother, but it was only visible to the Chatan. Now, the thing was, one day when the landlord set out on a long journey, Chatan had to accompany him. The master gave all his luggage to the Chatan, and the Chatan gave it to the mardan pother. To the master's absolute horror and amazement, he looked back and saw that the heavy travel bundles, the luggage, was floating miraculously mid-air. The Chatan was walking casually, chatting with an invisible entity that was carrying their luggage. Now, in another version, the Brahmin and the Chatan had to pass through this narrow gate. And when this gate appeared, the pother couldn't cross it because of its horns. And that's when the Brahmin turns around and sees that the luggage is floating mid-air. And then he touches the Chatan and he sees that there is a mardan pother, which then vanishes there. Now, the master realized his own spiritual arrogance that had blinded him, while his servant's pure faith had given physical form to the formless supreme. Now there's a parallel oral tradition which mirrors this story through another tale of Unnikoran, an illiterate youth whose master similarly mocked him by pointing to a wild bull grazing in the distance. And when they reached the dense banyan forests of Ochira, the divine bull became trapped in a thicket of hanging roots and vines. The moment Unnikoran untangled the vines to free the animal, it vanished into the earth. And the exact spot where the divine consciousness dissolved into the soil is believed to be the very ground of Ochira. Even to this day, the sacred bull, or the Ochira Kaala, is a living symbol of the temple, and devotees, they feed and revere these magnificent bulls that roam the temple grounds. The historical origin name Ochira is a subject of ongoing linguistic and cartographic discussion, with several fascinating versions mapping its transformation. Popular local etymology often attributes the name to Puranic roots. One prevalent belief is that the name has evolved from Omkarachira or Omchira, where the sacred primordial syllable Om, representing the supreme cosmic consciousness, Parabrahmam, was combined with the Malayalam word Chira, meaning a reclaimed piece of land or a water reservoir. Another theory links the name to Oymanchira, associating the territory with an ancient local chieftain named Oyman. A third perspective points to Uvachanchira, which is derived from Uvachan, a classical linguistic term for Mahadeva Shiva. However, historical records suggest a more practical origin. In the early 19th century, British cartographers Ward and Connor conducted a comprehensive geographic survey of the Kingdom of Travancore. Their report documented a large reservoir, historically known as Ochira, located at the center of a vast military training ground. This reservoir is today known as Ochira, was originally built and maintained by the Kayamkulam Raja. Was also known as the Odanat Raja or Onat Raja. Over decades of linguistic evolution, the term Ochira was corrupted in local speech, eventually stabilizing as Ochira. But why is this temple so vast, yet so empty? To understand the unstructured space of Ochira, we have to look past modern administrative maps. The vast 36-acre field it sits on is historically known as the Padanilam, which literally translates to the military training ground and battlefield. Now, this wasn't a place of quiet, cloistered chanting, it was a high-stakes arena of martial power. Up until the beginning of the 20th century, this region was the beating heart of Kerala's military heritage, sustaining over 108 Kalaris, that is military academies, spread across 52 local village subdivisions. It was a visionary Prime Minister of Travancore Kingdom who in the early 1800s introduced land reforms, issued formal titles, and settled merchant families from Madras and Tirunelveli here, transforming a seasonal military training ground into a thriving pilgrimage hub. Yet, despite this commercial evolution, the temple grounds flatly refused to build a roof over the divine. If you walk into the temple grounds today, you pray facing the altaras, the stone-reinforced platforms built around ancient banyan trees. Even local spirits are integrated into this boundless theology. At the nearby Yakshikavu, folklore tells of a volatile female nature spirit, a Yakshi, who once terrorized travelers. Instead of destroying her, an ancient mantravadi nailed her spiritual form to a sacred tree, and she was absorbed into the temple geography as a protective guardian. Under the supreme principle of Parabrahmam, not even the Yakshi is excluded, and that is the inclusivity of Hinduism. This temple is also famous for its Ochira Kali. Celebrated on the first 2 days of the Malayalam month of Mithunam, Ochira Kali is a spectacular ritual mock battle that transforms the waterlogged Padanilam into a living history museum. It commemorates the brutal historic military conflicts of the region, specifically the Battle of Kayamkulam, fought between the rising forces of Maharaja Martandavarma of Travancore and the independent Raja of Kayamkulam. As the early monsoon rains break over Kerala, the massive 36-acre field fills with knee-deep muddy water. Men and boys from the east and west village subdivisions divide themselves into two massive mock armies, and then they launch into a high-octane mock combat. For 48 hours, the battlefield of the olden times wakes up from the dead. It is not just a performance, it is a tribute to the ancestral memory and a fierce display of community unity that completely bypasses caste and social divisions. The spirit of equality peaks again later in the year during the Pandranda Velakku or the 12 Lamps festival in November. For many years, the temple's Annadana Mandiram has fed thousands of the poor, the sick, and the helpless every single day. Here, serving the formless divine means directly serving human suffering. Ochira forces us to confront a radical metaphysical reality. Our ancestors built magnificent stone temples to help us focus, but places like Ochira exist to remind us of the ultimate truth of Parabrahman, that when you strip away the walls, the roofs, and the human ego, the entire universe becomes a shrine. Now tell me in the comments below, have you ever witnessed the fierce energy of an open temple or a shrine? I've made a very fascinating video on this topic before, and you can watch it by clicking here. If you want to explore the hidden geography, the martial history, and the raw folklore of our sacred spaces, then you should definitely subscribe to this channel. Share this video with your family and friends, and subscribe to Chaturya and help us bring those forgotten histories to light. See you next time. May the Parabrahmam be with you.